Hey guys, this year we're going to be celebrating 20 years of drag and drive events. So in this episode, I want to talk about drag and drive events, where it's all come from, how crazy it's all gotten, and my own small contribution to the drag and drive phenomenon. Hey guys, let me just start this video off by saying that I was hoping to do something a lot more exciting for this video. However, just life has other plans, doesn't it? At the moment, I have the spicy cough. Don't say the name, you'll get me demonetized. But yeah, been locked in the house for more than half a week, and I don't want to infect anyone. But yeah, it hasn't been great. I am on the mend, there's no doubt about that, but I'm still testing in the affirmative, the positive. Anyway, so I figured this is a good time to talk about drag and drive events because it's very timely. The drag and drive season has just kicked off in the States with Sick Week, which looked like an amazing event by all accounts. I watched every video, and I know a bunch of people that are there, both American and Australian, and it looked like it was so well run. It looked like it went off amazingly. They had some weather issues, but you can't control the weather. So anyone who blames a promoter for the weather is an idiot. They don't want the weather to be bad. Promoters want good weather, just the same as anyone, and they're just got to deal with the chips as they're drawn. So anyway, yeah, it's a good time to talk about drag and drive events. So it all kicked off in 2005. We are coming up on the 20th anniversary of drag and drive events, and it all started with David Freiberger. I mean, everyone knows that. David saw an event that used to happen called One Lap of America. I presume it used to happen. I haven't seen anything about One Lap of America for a long time. But it used to be something that used to pop up in a few of the US mags. And basically guys would drive to a race circuit, do a lap, the best, and I don't know how many shots they got at that lap, but I assume it was kind of one lap, get one hit and then drive to the next circuit and then do another lap there. And they do several circuits in several days. And, kind of the guy that got the best average over the circuits won. So David Freiberger took that, idea and adapted it for drag racing. And let's face it, drag and drive as part of drag racing has been part of drag racing forever. I mean, guys have literally driven their cars to drag strips and raced them and driven them home from the start of drag racing. I used to drive my cars up to, Queensland Raceway, Willowbank Raceway, back in the 90s, and race at the Performance Street Car Shootout and then drive it home, that sort of thing. This is when I lived in Sydney, so it was like over 800 Ks or over 500 miles for you American guys. But, it's just something that we did. I mean, not all of us had car trailers, and to be honest, some of our cars weren't, the fastest. I mean, the car that I drove up, ran 14 flats, so, but it was the 90s. It was a carby Chrysler V8, so, at the time, it felt like a big deal driving, and we're not talking about freeways or highways. It was, well, I guess you call them highways, but Australian highways are not freeways. And yeah, this is the 90s, so it was like single lane road either way in some spots. So, it was rough roads, and you're just driving, 70s car with a 400 horsepower V8 or whatever. And yeah, so the good times though, like the road trips are what make the memories. And so Freiberger went, let's bring the street back to the streetcar racing, because they were doing pump gas drags and all that sort of stuff. Pump gas drags was a great thing where the cars had to race on pump gas, and they'd make them do like a drive component as part of the event. I think they only had to drive 20 or 30 miles or something like that. But, the drag and drive thing, drag week became sort of the next thing, which was drive your stuff all week, you know, take a minimum amount of tools. Well, it was supposed to start off that way. Minimum amount of stuff, no support vehicles, 5 tracks, 5 days, you know, 1,200 miles, 1,000 to 1,200 miles. And the first event they did in 2005, it was open-ended. So they started at one track over here and ended up at this track over there, you know, raced at each track along the way. And then at the last track, the entrants had to get their stuff back to the first track to pick up their tow vehicles and go home. And to be honest, we did the same thing on our very first drag challenge, but I'm getting ahead of myself there. So the first drag week was won by a guy by the name of Carl Scott. He had a mid 8-second nitrous big block Nova, I think 540 cube nitrous deal. And he averaged in the mid 8s, which sounds very slow these days. But at the time, a mid 8-second car in 2005 doing 1,200 miles was a big deal. That was a massive deal. No one was driving those sort of distances in their street cars and running that fast. It didn't happen. And you had guys like Larry Larson was one of his main competitors back then, and Larson would then go on to win a whole bunch of drag and drive, or drag weeks. I won't say drag and drives, but drag weeks. He won a whole bunch of them, and you know, he became a very well-known name in that. And then the whole thing evolved, you know. So based off that first event, they made changes. They went, okay, it's too hard for him to get back, so let's make the thing a bit of a loop. So start and finish at the same track. So they evolved the event so that way you could tow your vehicle to the first track, because they had guys coming from all over the states. So tow your vehicle to the first track, and then after racing starts, your tow vehicle and all that stuff becomes invisible. It becomes non-existent as far as you're concerned. You don't get to touch it. As someone discovered during the latest Sick Week, a well-known YouTuber discovered, hey Bill, if anyone sends you this, but Bill Hoskinson from Old Man Garage discovered that yes, you can't get to your tow rig once the event has started until it is completely finished, until you put that last time slip in. So basically, yeah, you have no access to your tow rig, you have no access to, you know, no support vehicles. You start and finish at the one track, and you go off and do the rest of the tracks, and they have mandatory stops. The mandatory stop thing came about when someone got caught cheating in one of those events, one of those early events. Famously, this guy got caught out by Kyle at 1320, and it's actually in a secret file on the Drag Week DVD that he made. You know, you click a certain button, you end up in this certain area, and you see the footage of them loading this car onto an enclosed trailer in the middle of the night, and then they'd trailer it near the next track and then unload it, you know, behind warehouses or wherever. And then, you know, they got caught and they got told never to come back. I mean, as far as I know, they never did come back. But yeah, then their name was mud after that. But so Drag Week evolved with the rules because of things people did, you know. So guy got caught cheating, so they introduced mandatory stops. So these people had to show up somewhere, take a photo of their car, obviously not on a trailer, you know, to prove that they drove there. And of course it means they all have to then follow the same route. They all have to, you know, show up in the same places. So they're all along the same road, so people can see if other people were cheating, you know. So it becomes a self-regulating thing. Very early on, people were using, you know, car trailers as their trailers behind their vehicles. So there was a guy towed you know, he had this big blue turbo Chevy pickup, and he towed an entire car trailer behind his trailer, and it had like a full workshops full of gear on this thing. So the next year they went, yeah, no, your trailer size can only be this much. And Drag Week used to have this very specific formula of like you could only have so many cubic feet of air and measurements and that sort of thing for your trailer it was very complicated, and certainly when we did our event, we did not use that formula. I went with something much more similar, but again, I'm getting ahead of myself. So yeah, the rules evolved. The cars got wilder, that's for sure, to the point where some competitors had dummy spits. Won't mention names. I had a thought about how to do this video, you know, because there's a lot of spicy things have happened, and I'm going to take the much more milder route with this video, but I could be much more spicier with this and talk about some of the stuff that has gone down at Drag and Drive events over the years, because yeah, some shit's gone down, and yeah, you could name names, and some people are going to get very angry, but I think I'll take the mild route at the moment. Sorry, I got to have a drink, but yeah. Oh, not sponsored. Anyway, so yeah, things evolved. There's no doubt that it it has gotten crazy. It's gotten very much crazy in that obviously that we evolved into the whole pro mod sort of thing, which, like I said, angered some entrants. So we ended up with guys like Tom Bailey arrived on the scene with, 6 seconds and 6 second 2.0. And then you had, Jeff Lutz, who has more famously gone off into the Street Outlaws crowd. He was heavily involved there for a long time, and you got guys like Bryant Goldstone, who just keeps plugging away. That guy just keeps going at it. David with the Nitrous Pro Mod he started off with a Corvette from Canada. I like to call him the Canadian Kenny Rogers. But yeah, mate, there's just so many amazing cars and amazing competitors that keep coming back, and even those guys have evolved. David ended up stopped racing the Corvette and built another car that's even wilder, but it doesn't seem to be working for him at the moment. But he's running good numbers, but it just still, whether he makes it down the track or not, always seems to be a bit of a hit and miss. Again, I'm getting away from the subject. However, the Drag and Drive thing has gotten pretty crazy, to the extent that what we see this year with Sick Week is a radial tyre car with a factory engine, like a factory engine block, runs 6.0. Now, Bailey ran 590 back in 2019, and that was amazing. Like, that was just like, I didn't make it there that year. I went to Drag Weeks 2015, 16, 17 and 18. Unfortunately, and I put together a very good team of people at the time to help film and cover these events. And you still see these people. Matt Reiki, Luke Newhoff. Luke pretty much runs the Sick Week events and Sick the Mag. Matt Reiki shoots all the Sick Week videos and that sort of thing. And they were pretty much our guys that we used for all our Street Machine videos over there and that sort of thing. And so built up this team of guys and ended up doing myself out of a job, because I get to 2019, I'm like, so we going over again? And Top's like, do you need to go? We got Reiki over there, we got Luke over there, we got Povey. Povey was taking photos for us, so Povey used to be our designer at Street Machine. And through the whole Drag Week thing, Povey got to know the Hot Rod guys, and so he was doing some work for them as well. So I ended up doing myself out of a job there in a way that I didn't get to go over and cover Drag Week events anymore, because I built up this great team of people that was kind of like, I'd end up being just the guy that drove the car for them and made sure they had food and water and all that sort of stuff, made sure they had accommodation and that sort of thing. But essentially, those guys, you point them in the right direction and they go off and they make the content, and it was kind of like, yeah, maybe I don't need to be there, but I want to. But yeah, at some point, the bosses have to go, well, You know, we don't really need to pay you to go over there and do that anymore. But it was good to have those opportunities to go over there for 4 years and see how the Americans did it, because it certainly helped me develop Drag Challenge, which is the event that I created for Street Machine, which is our own drag and drive event. And as far as I can work out, it's the second drag and drive event in the world. So Drag Week was the first. And then, you know, I was a massive fan of Drag Week right from the get-go, right from 2005. And I think I've said this before. I think I was Kyle from 1320's, one of his first international customers, because he had no idea how to send me stuff. I'm like, dude, I want these DVDs, you know, send me the DVDs, you know, I want to buy them. And he had to work out how to send international post and all that sort of stuff. And later on, I actually encouraged Kyle. So I'm sweating my ring out. Later on, I encouraged Kyle to get on YouTube and start putting his stuff up on YouTube. And I mean, you can see where that's gone. You know, from that, we've seen 1320 grow into this massive beast on YouTube. And then Cletus grew from there, I guess, you know. So I don't know if that's, you know, am I responsible? I don't know. It would have happened eventually, I guess. But at the time, you know, Kyle was like, man, I don't even know if it's worth me putting stuff up on YouTube. And I, dude, you have such a back catalogue of stuff. You should be dumping it up on YouTube. You'll become a YouTube partner in no time. You'll be making money off this stuff. It'll be beneficial, I guarantee you. He starts doing it, becomes a partner, and you can see where it's all come from there. Anyway, again, getting off subject. So I'd been watching, obviously, what was happening in the States. I was, you know, read all the hot rod magazines and Carcraft. I'd followed Freiberger's career for quite a while as a magazine guy and as a car guy. You know, I'd read so much of Freiberger's stuff, and then seeing what he'd done with this Drag Week concept, and I'm like, and as soon as that all came out, I thought, how can I do this in Australia? And I was a freelancer at the time with Street Machine. So as a freelancer with Street Machine, you know, I was writing stories every week and that sort of thing, but I wasn't directly involved in the running of the magazine or any, and they never did any events before that really. But I sort of mapped out, how can I do this for as little money as possible, you know, because I don't want to hire tracks and things like this, you know, so I'd have to tack onto a street meet here and then drive to this track to get to that street meet, because that street meet's on a Sunday and that street meet's on a Wednesday and this street meet's on a Friday. So I'd have to drive from here to here to here and make those dates and sort of do my own drag and driver thing. And I'd worked out a whole thing of how I could do this. And but I didn't really, like, I had what did I have at that time? I had a 13-second Centura at the time, you know, so I guess I had V6 Vengeance as well. So I had an 11-second V6 Vengeance as well. So there was a way I could have done this, and it would have been just me doing my own sort of drag and drive thing. But I didn't get to do it, you know, because of just time pressures and money, you know, because it costs money to do these things. But I'd sort of shelved the idea. And then when I came in and joined the Street Machine team full-time in 2013, one of the first things I said to Telf, you know, when Drag Week popped up again, I was like, Telf, we need to do our own Drag Week type event. And he's like, oh, everyone reckons you can't do it. And I said, yeah, no, I've been hearing this for the last 8 years, you know. Everyone says, as soon as you bring up the subject, the cops will shut you down. It'll never happen in Australia. All this blah, blah, blah. Everyone was so negative about the idea. No one felt that you could do a drag and drive here in Australia. And 2014 rolled around, and Telf, and I, you know, like I said, I bugged Telf a few times about this, and he finally went, you know what, if you reckon do it, map it out, tell me how we can do this, and we'll see if it's feasible. So I mapped it out using, like I said, street meets and things like that. And I was like, if we started at Eastern Creek at this, or not Eastern Creek, but Sydney Dragway, you know, if we start at Sydney Dragway on this date, And then we get to here and we get to there, you know, we end up in Calder and we end up at Heathcote. We could do this, you know, we might have to do something in the middle. I don't know what we can do in the middle, because otherwise it's Sydney all the way to Calder Park, which is, you know, 800 Ks. It's a fair old distance. So, yeah, I don't know what we're going to do with that. So, so me and Toph sat down and worked through the problem, and we worked out there was a driver training facility in the middle. And we thought, and I'd actually been involved with some of the people that worked out there. So I rang those guys and said, what if we ran just like a heads up, no prep type deal at your track? Would they allow that? And they said, if there's no traction compounds or anything like that, we've got no lights. And I said, no, I'll make a light. I'll just make like a switch with a green light. And I still have that sitting up there. It's actually still sitting up there. Hang on. This is it, just sitting there covered in dust. A motorbike battery with the green light, and I just had a button, and basically we lined up, we staged the cars, I hit the button and the green light would show, and off they go, basically. So very much no prep style. So yeah, piece of drag and drive history right there. Oh, excuse me. So Toph goes, yes, let's do it. So we put the word out very quietly amongst some people we could trust. I think we invited something like 40 people. And a few people were like, no, you got busted and we'll get put off the road or whatever. And it turned out there was like, we got 17 people plus me. So I got a press car from Chrysler. It was a SRT 300C with a 6.1. It was the 6.1 litre. So I took that. That made 18, and there was 17 other guys and girls. Yeah, because we had 2 female racers, Caroline and Alicia, and a bunch of guys. And pretty much, I mean, some of them towed to that first to Sydney dragway, but you know, Terry Sang drove his car down from Queensland, you know, 8-second car. And a few others drove as well. I think most of the Sydney guys, you know. Actually, most of the Victorian guys, I think, also drove, because otherwise they had to go back and get their stuff. So they're kind of like, we're just going to drive up there because we don't want to have to go and get our tow rig afterwards. So we'll just drive back and we'll be back home anyway. So yeah, that's how we started off. We're sitting there at Sydney Dragway. It's pissing rain, and we've got these 17 other cars, but let's say 18 of us standing there in the rain with the Street Machine crew, and they're like, what the fuck are we gonna do? Like, it's pissing rain. I'm like, well, this is how drag and drives go, because it's not just a one-day event. Let's go. Let's hit the road. We're not going to dry out today. So let's hit the road and we get to our next stop. So their first experience with the drag and drive event was getting on the road and driving 500 Ks to Albury. Well, just south of Albury, we were going to go to Wodonga, the Driver Education Centre. And that was their first experience. And when they got to the end of that day, they were like, holy shit, that's been a big day. I'm like, yep. And tomorrow we race, and then we drive somewhere else. And they're like, oh, wow. And it kind of started to dawn on them, like, what they'd got themselves into. So yeah, the second day, we show up at the Driver Education Centre, and I set up my green light, and I forgot his name. One of the guys out there helps us stage the cars. Steve, I think it is. And yeah, we'd stage the cars, green light would go, boom, off they'd go. And it got down to the end that Tristan Trickus won that. And we ran it as like a little separate mini event within the event. And VPW came on as a sponsor, and VPW put up some gift certificates and that sort of thing for that part of the event. And Tristan Trickus actually won that part of it. I do remember one funny part, and it was Harry. Harry joined us. He didn't join us in Sydney. He joined us there and wanted to be part of it. And we're like, look, dude, you can join in the fun and be part of it, but you're not in the running for the overall thing because, you know, you didn't go to Sydney, you know. And he does the Street Outlaws part of it. And, you know, the light goes green, he wasn't ready. Well, you know, he goes around, he comes around, he's like, I said, did you win or lose? And he's like, oh, well, I wasn't ready. I'm like, did the light go green? Yeah, but I wasn't ready. I'm like, dude, can you pull off back to the pits? And he was like super angry about it, like, but I wasn't ready. I'm like, when's that ever going to be an excuse? And then he famously packed up and did a massive power skid out of the facility. And I think he got over it at the end of the day, but and I think he did join us down at Heathcote Park on the Saturday. But yeah, at the time we're just like, oh, dude, why? You know, we're just trying to do this thing and not annoy the cops and the public, and yeah, so that was a bit of a thing. And I actually had to crack down on some of the races because shit was going down during that first some of those drive legs. You know, they were power skidding down the freeway at high speeds, and when I found out, I pulled those guys aside and I said, it stops now. And they're like, oh, we're just having fun. It was like, nah, it stops now. Because if you ever want to see this event happen again, that shit cannot happen. It cannot happen. And if you do it again and we find out, you are gone forever. Not just from the event this weekend, we will never have you back to another Street Machine event ever. And they kind of all like, oh, okay. And we put a pin in it right there. Because if I'd let it go, you imagine, well, you see what happens in the States, all the trailer burnouts and stuff like that. And some cities over there are cool with it, which is fine, I guess. But some of them are definitely not cool with it. Some are definitely not cool with it. And, man, I know Drag Week is definitely trying to cut down on that stuff. They don't want to see the trailer burnout thing happen anymore, but some of the other events, they kind of lean into it a bit and make it as part of the program. And I guess that's fine. If, like I said, they're the ones dealing with the cities over there. Over here, cannot happen. They catch you doing a burnout on the street here in Australia, and I think pretty much every state has the law now. They will take your car and they will crush it. All right, so you got $100,000 invested in your drag and drive car. You do not want to see it get compacted. No. So, and we don't want to see that stuff happen because it just brings a bad reputation to the whole deal, you know. So I have had to kick a couple guys over the years from Drag Challenge for doing this same sort of deal, you know, doing a burnout in the middle of nowhere. And sometimes, and like if they'd shut their mouth, we would have never known. But, you know, of course, social media being what it is, people put their photos, selfie of them, you know, beer in hand. Yes, I'm looking at you, Tony. Beer in hand, selfie with his mate doing a burnout in the background. Well, those guys got kicked straight away, you know. So it's just, you've got to be a hard ass when it comes to this. And I'm not trying to, yeah. But you've got to be hard about it, because if you're not, they'll just run over you and just try and get away with everything. So, and there's a few people that don't like me from the stuff that I've had to do as the runner of Drag Challenge, you know. So, yeah, it's funny how that happens, you know. You become a promoter, and I tell you what, your list of enemies grows very rapidly because people are like, oh, you're a prick for doing that to me. And I'm like, I didn't do it to you, dude. You did it to yourself. You know, so if they're going to do it to themselves, you know, you just can't let them, you know, roll over you, basically. So anyway, that's how Drag Challenge got started. And we ended up at Heathcote Park Raceway, and this is back when Russell owned the joint, you know, and become this epic battle between Terry and Quentin at the end. And Quentin, to his credit, he had some very smart guys behind him, and like, he's a good racer, there's no doubt. And he could put the power down at Heathcote Park, where Terry is a hardcore racer as well, but Terry tries to, well, certainly at that point, tried to rotate the earth every time he did a pass. So here he is putting more power into it and just spinning, and he's like trying to, eventually he started pulling power out of it, but he just couldn't get it down the track no matter what he did, and Quentin took the win. And it was a really close thing, and then Quentin would then go on to win a couple of events, and and Drag Challenge has been now going for over 10 years. I think we had to skip a year because of the spicy cough, but as part of that whole deal, like I said, I got to go to Drag Week in the States and see how they did it. It was partly me going over to cover the event, and I want to do a separate video of me talking about traveling in the States and just the weird stuff that you will come up against when you go to the US. There's just weird things that happen, and I'll talk about that in a separate video because it is hilarious and interesting. For anyone that wants to travel to the US, it'll definitely be a video to watch. But yeah, we went to Drag Week in 2015 was the first one. That's when I first met Freiberger. And I introduced myself, hey, I'm Scott from Street Machine, and we do our own drag and drive event, called Drag Challenge. And he's like, you can't do, like a drag week in Australia, like, you don't have the tracks. Like, straight away, like, this is Freiberger though, like Freiberger can, and Freiberger freely admits he is this way. He is not a great people person, okay? He can be, but he has to meet you a couple times. And certainly in that first time, I was kind of like taken aback by his just very abrupt, like, you can't do it. You don't have enough tracks. I'm like, well, we've done it. We've already done it. And we're doing it again this year. So, it is what it is. And he's sort of, after a while, he's kind of like, actually, that's pretty cool. It's cool that you're doing your own event. And he was actually very happy that we had not named it like the Aussie Drag Week or something like that, even though some people still refer to it that way. He was happy that we created our own identity and our own name, being Drag Challenge, and we didn't want to call it the Aussie Drag Week or Street Machine Drag Week or something like that. We thought, no, Hot Rod, it's Drag Week, it's their deal, let's create our own thing. And Drag Challenge was the name we came up with, and of course some other people have adopted the Drag Challenge name and for whatever reason feel that that's appropriate. But anyway, not getting into that. So, 2015, hell of a year. Got to meet a lot of great racers, and we had at that time quite a few Aussies were going over at that time to race, and then of course that was the first year Harry had gone over as well, and they picked up this Chevelle out of a field. It was a sort of, they travelled over to race in Steve Reeman's Phoenix or Polara, I think they call them over there. But Harry was kind of like, this thing's kind of ugly, I don't want to race that. What's that car over there? It was at Arby's buddy's place, and it was this Chevelle sitting in the field, and they pulled it out, and famously, famously that became the Aussie Chevelle. And like I said, I don't want to get into the spicy versions of what went down, but yeah, there's some stories there to be told. But yeah, so 2015 was the first year. 2016 was the year that they put the turbos on that car, and then we had a whole bunch of other races there as well, and just things got pretty crazy pretty quick. And then, like I said, the pro mod thing was just really coming on strong, so you had Lutz and Bailey really shooting it out for the top honours, and then a Goldstone was always in the background. as well. So yeah, that whole pro mod thing has developed, and we're seeing new cars getting built. Ned Dunphy's Viper is something that when they get that thing on, that thing is going to dominate. But again, you've got guys like Brett LaSala and his Mustang, and like that Mustang, wow, like I said, factory engine block, radial tire deal, running 6.0s. That car will, and I believe it has gone 5s in non-drag week prep, but that car is just amazing. When you put it beside Tom Bailey's car, it's just, they're chalk and cheese. You've got a billet engine deal versus a factory engine block deal. Yeah, and running similar sort of numbers. It's just insane how far this has all come. And then, of course, now they've got like 30 drag and drive events in the States. I mean, Tom Bailey has, just to his credit, has created this massive thing with Sick the Mag, and then the Sick Week and Sick Summer events. It's just a brilliant. And so, he's got Matt Reekie working for him and Luke Newhoff working for him. And, he was even riding with an Aussie. Bailey seems to have surrounded himself with Aussies, which is quite amusing. Andy McConnell was riding with him during this whole budget car challenge deal that Bailey slipped into with Cletus and that. And obviously Cletus's budget drag deal definitely brought a lot of eyeballs to Sick Week this year. There is no doubt. And I was blown away actually watching Sick Week, how many YouTubers were there. So, Old Man Garage, Gen 2 Garage, SRC. SRC was more there as a, I think they were there in the Sick ward. So Billy and his partner Molly were travelling around in a Nova, and I think they got sick and they had to actually stop following along. But Allison in a hurricane-powered Dakota pickup, the old man running in his bloody Malibu, and then young Tommy in that twin-turbo Chevy truck. But there was also the No Way guy from Canada, Richard Guido came down, and he was working with Matt Blasco. Matt Blasco, not a YouTuber, but Richard has his own YouTube channel. Matt and Richard, great guys that I've met and known for years from being at Drag Week. And Matt had a horrific accident where a rod broke on day one and exited the block and put oil under the car, and he ended up in the wall, and the car, like the whole front end, because there was a lift off front, whole front end of the car come apart, and it was just a horrific deal all around. But thankfully Matt walked out of it without a scratch. So he'll rebuild that car. And Richard, of course, is the guy they call the Canadian Chuck Norris. He usually drives his car down from Alberta in Canada in a manual turbo Pontiac with a Pontiac engine in it, and that thing goes mid-eights. So just again, you meet these amazing people with these amazing deals. But other YouTubers included Kyle from Booster Boys, Flying Sparks, I think, showed up, and they were doing the whole Sick Ward thing. Again, Sick Ward was this thing that they've come up as part of Sick Week where you can follow along, but you get in the event with your car, but you don't get to race, but you get to follow along, and you're actually more part of the deal. It's a cool deal. We had a similar deal with Drag Challenge in that we would sell a week pass so people could get in every week and they get a free t-shirt and that, but we didn't allow them to bring their cars in the pits because the pits in Australian drag meetings tend to be pretty clogged up anyway, and especially with the drag and drive deal where everyone's got a little trailer. And, you know, so the pits end up quite full, and we just didn't want civilian cars parked in amongst all the competitors' cars. So, yeah. I guess another contribution I've made is that as part of Drag Challenge, we created around what we call a DYO class. So at Drag Week, they don't have a dial your own class as such. They have a street eliminator sort of class, and then the top 32 cars then go into a DYO shootout on the last day. Sick Week, though, have adopted our rules, which is running a DYO pass every day. So you run a number and then you try and match that number every day of the event. That's something I created for Drag Challenge. And so Sick Week, if you've ever raced DYO at Sick Week, you're welcome. That is something I've created. The whole DYO thing of running, you know, a pass every day and trying to be as close to that pass every day is something we created for Drag Challenge. And oh, this cough. And yeah, it is, I guess it's my little legacy, I guess, as part of the whole drag and drive thing. But now we've got like 30 drag and drive events in the US. We've got a few here in Australia of different styles, you know, and then Harry started his own Hard Ass 1000 thing. You know, there's been a couple others. There's one where they race it in an airport on one day, and then they drive to a little town 60 k's away and hand your time slips there. It's a different concept, kind of cool, but yeah, in the terms of drag and drive thing where it's multi-day events, you know, I guess, yeah, that's kind of not in the same realm, is it? But, you know, when you got like 30 events over in the States, you know, Rocky Mountain Race Week and Sick Week, Sick Summer, Midwest Drags, and they're just the better known ones. Now there's so many different names that I just can't even remember them all, and I'm also crook, so, you know, my brain's not functioning on all cylinders right now. But yeah, there is a lot going on, and then some idiot has tried to trademark the drag and drive name, and he wants, you know, royalties for that every time someone mentions drag and drive or whatever. Well, screw you, guy. That's not happening. You didn't invent it. You weren't even close. So yeah, it's drag and drive and drag week, and the whole legacy it is left has been a pretty amazing thing, and it's just going to get bigger and bigger. I don't know where it's going to stop. I mean, at the moment, I guess the target is right now, someone wants to be the first to run fives at every track. And I know that is a goal of Tom Bailey's, is to run fives at every track. And I guess that is the next big goal, because all the other goals, all the other goals have been hit, really. You know, I guess the first radial 5-second goal is one that hasn't. You know, we're starting to get into micro records there, but pretty big micro records, but still, you know, when you start saying it's like it's the first car, you know, with a stock block to run a 5 with a radial, blah, 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 you know. I don't really get into the whole micro record thing. But if they run 5s on radials during a drag week event, that's cool. If they were to run 5s at every day during a drag week event or drag and drive event on a radial, that would also be cool. And if anyone was to run 5s every day on a drag and drive event, that would be groundbreaking, and it'll happen. They're going to keep plugging away at this thing until it does, but it'll happen. So I guess where is all this going for me? Well, I'm going to go over to Sick Summer in June. That is my goal. And right now I am in the process of purchasing a car for that. It's going to be a stock car to start off with. I'm not going to get into what it is yet because we're still a week and a bit away from actually completing the purchase. But yeah, when that happens, hopefully in June, you're going to see me over there doing Six Summer. And I think that's going to be pretty cool. And you guys are helping make this happen through your support through the channel, through Patreon, through buying t-shirts and all that sort of stuff. So I do thank you for your support, because this is not something that I thought was going to happen certainly this quickly, because, you know, it was something I wanted it to happen. Definitely wanted this to happen, but I've got to this point relatively quickly, and I've gone, well, here's the opportunity, let's do this thing. And sometimes you've got to take big swings. So I'm going to take a big swing. Yes, it's going to cost me a little bit of dollars, and yes, my wife's not happy about it, but again, sorry honey, I got to do this. I got to try it, because it is also a bucket list thing for me as well. You know, like, to do a drag and drive in the States for me is a bucket list item. I mean, I got to do obviously Drag Challenge this year in a very serious car for the first time, which was the ute that we built for Drag Challenging in the Carnage show. We went mid-eights all week. You know, we made it from start to finish, and we come third in our class. And again, it was a bucket list thing. That was very cool. A lot of people have said, oh, why don't you take the ute to the States? I'm like, for starters, it's not my ute. It belongs to Street Machine, so it has to be their decision. And to be honest, they're not going to spend the, 20 grand or more to send that car over so I can then, fulfill my dream. Yeah, that's not going to happen. So I'm going to have to do it my way. And my way is to buy a car over there and build it over there, because, it costs a lot of money to send a car over there. So all that money that we would spend sending a car over there could essentially build a car. So it makes sense to actually build the car over there. So yeah, that's going to happen. I hope. I'm pretty confident. That's the plan. So I hope you've enjoyed some of this video. I mean, I have rambled on a bit. I'm sorry. I am a bit crook. I am sweating. I have sweat pouring out of me right now. I am trying to not choke. Not choke to death. And yeah, it's like I said, Drag and Drive. It's been an adventure. It's an adventure that's continuing. And like I said, 20 years of Drag and Drive events this year. It's a cool deal. And probably the coolest thing that has ever happened in drag racing. Let's face it, in long term, it kind of is, I mean, you think about what else has happened in drag racing that has affected drag racing so much in the history before that, I can't think of one thing that has affected drag racing so strongly before. I mean, you might say the invention of dial your own racing was a big deal, The switch from front engine to rear engine dragsters was a big deal, but I don't even think that's as big as the whole Drag and Drive phenomenon. I think Drag and Drive is something that's just massive, and it's just going to get bigger as more people enjoy what it is, I mean, and it's great that more people do get to enjoy. We have all these events now. It used to be, sorry. It used to be that Drag Week got sold out in 6 minutes. 400 entries, 450 I think sometimes they tried to sell in 6 minutes. And of course it's always the same people every year trying to get in. So you end up with this same crew, and that's cool, because some of those people I consider almost family, because I met some of the nicest people you've ever met, at those drag week events from 2015 to 2018, and some of them are still my friends, and some of those friends are enabling me to do what is going to come in June. So that is an amazing thing, you know, just through those contacts. So yeah, it's having all these other events allows more people to enjoy what it is to go to drag and drive. And like I said, now we're seeing so many YouTubers do the whole drag and drive thing. And I'm not just talking Cletus, I'm talking all of them. Like I swear, I swear there must have been 50 different YouTube channels at Sick Week this year. So, you know, they had 380 cars, but I reckon if there wasn't 50 guys with their own YouTube channels, and I'm not talking major ones, I'm talking there'd be a guy there with, you know, 2,000 subscribers, but that still counts. You know, they're still a YouTuber, they're still doing it for the views, for the clicks, and doing it for their own enjoyment as well. So that's all part of the deal. But yeah, drag and drive, if you haven't done it, get on it. I will tell you, it is hard. It is harder than anyone gives it credit for. You know, most people will be like, oh, this is easier, get in the car and we drive and blah, blah, blah. And I guess that is, to a certain extent, when you're getting down in the 10s and the 9s. But when you start going deeper than 9s, going to the 8s, the 7s, the 6s, the 5s, it gets very serious. Like I said, doing the 850 thing this year with the Ute, the level of anxiety that happens while you do that is extreme. You know, like you are stressed to the max. So don't be surprised if you go up and talk to someone with a mid 8-second car and things are not going well and they turn around and snap at you. It's not you, and it's not them, it's the whole stress of the situation. So I certainly had to find myself this year last year at Drag Challenge, just like rein that in and just like, hey guys, how you going? You know, be kind to everyone, because there's other times where you just want to just put a pillow over your face and scream. But yeah, drag and drive. It's fun, they said. Well, Scotty said. Anyway, like I said, I hope you enjoyed this video. I have rambled a bit. I am sorry. I had to do something because, like I said, I am unwell and I can't go out and get car parts, and it really affects my ability to make content here in Scotty's Garage. And I figure let's talk about drag and drive because, like I said, it's something that's kicking off again this year, and it's going to be big and it's going to be bigger, and we're going to get involved, and you're going to see that on future episodes of Scotty's Garage.